1, 2, 3. Listen.
Hey everybody, this is AskDrGanz, the podcast. Stress, everybody's got it. Everybody has it. So how do we deal with it? How can we eliminate the bad stuff, and how can we use stress to actually help reboot or reconfigure in a positive manner for success at every level? Well, joining us is registered psychologist Dr. Ganz Ferencz. How you doing today?
I am great, thank you.
Excellent. My name is Bryn Griffiths. I'm your host. Today, the focus is on plan to reduce stress. Take the time to plan. That sounds so easy, yet it is not.
Well, this is it, right? I mean, I think we get into a little bit of a trap here sometimes, right? Where we think that, I can't take time to plan. I gotta get busy doing stuff, right? And this is a big mistake, right? It's like it's kind of like saying, I can't stop for gas because I got to get on the road, right?
Yeah.
It's like preparation. You know, what used to drive me crazy is we used to, when I was younger, my dad used to have a few different properties. We'd always go and we'd have to paint. Like, if somebody moves out of the place, you want to go and paint. And it was always such a hard time for me because I love painting. What I don't like is all the prep work that's also around painting, right? So when you're actually if you're a painter, very little of your time is actually spent painting, actually putting paint on the wall.
Prepping.
What you are doing is prepping. You got to fill the holes, you got to sand, you got to make sure you tape everything off, you got to, put down the drop cloths, you got to do everything to make sure, you got to mix the paint. And then once you have all that stuff done, then you actually get to put paint on the wall. Well, it's the same sort of thing with planning. When you're doing something, you need to make sure you're doing the right thing, and you need to make sure you're doing the right thing in the right way. Otherwise, you just you run on a treadmill. You're not getting anywhere. And so this is one of those things that it's really easy to understand, but we don't do it because, again, it's maybe too simple. But just taking the time to plan your day, organize your time, figure out what the priorities are. You get to leverage your day, leverage your time, and you reduce stress like you wouldn't believe. It is such a very powerful tool.
Why are most people so crappy at planning?
Well, honestly, I used to hate planning, right? Because I think many people felt the same way I did, which was if I plan everything, then I'm not going to be spontaneous. Then I'm going to be a slave to the plan. Or, typically what I used to do is I used to overplan. I used to put too many things on my to-do list, or fill my schedule up to every minute. But then what happens is if you plan that way and then something goes wrong, there's a traffic jam, so you're late getting to a meeting, or you didn't get a good night's sleep that night, so you wake up a little late, or you don't start with something. Well, the whole thing goes to hell then, right?
Yeah.
Because you just got to give up because it's like, right, and then you feel guilty and you feel stressed, and so it actually works against you. But if you take the time to set yourself up and you understand that you do not need to schedule every single minute of the day. In fact, what you need to do is you need to put some blank spaces in your day. One, for adjustment, right? Just, kind of float spaces. So if you need to adjust, you can move stuff around, not feel guilty about it. But two, you need blank spaces because you actually need to, I guess, plan your spontaneity, right? Plan your ability to do things that are outside of your plan, but you've made allowances for it. So that way you don't throw off your whole schedule if something shakes up or you find something more interesting that you want to do.
I worked for 2 National Hockey League teams through my career for about 6 to 7 years. Part of my job was to assist with the travel. So you're moving 35 guys around all at once. And so for me, I had a plan A, but I also had a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. And some people would look at that and say, too much, you're doing too much. But for me, that was actually quite settling.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know, and then this has come up with my clients a lot. Sometimes they'll go and they'll say, well, I'll come back. I'm good for a while. I'll call you, or I'll set up something up when I need to come back, right? Usually they come back and it's a crisis, okay? But there are other clients who then say, you know what? I'm good for a while, but you know what? Let me check in with you in, 6 weeks, or let me check in with you in 2 months, right? And they set up the appointment. They set up maybe 1 or 2 appointments. And what happens is they actually when they come, it's not a crisis. They come, yeah, things are good. You know, I was having this thing, but then I realized, oh no, I have my appointment in 2 weeks. I'll be good. I'll be okay. And just knowing that the appointment is there, just knowing that they have the option, right? They have a plan for it, basically. That helps them reduce their stress and manage whatever thing is coming up for them. So you're absolutely right. Having something that is clear and laid out really does, just by having it, even if you never follow it, even if you don't have to follow it, like your plan D, right? Just knowing you have that backup really does help you to feel better and reduces your stress immensely.
Never got past the plan B, actually. I'm happy to report, but it was always smooth sailing.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, to-do lists. I always have to-do lists, but I never do the do stuff on the to-do lists to do. You know what I'm saying? It for me, it just doesn't seem to work, but for some people, it's a powerful mechanism.
Well, it depends on what you do with them, right? Okay.
Yeah, I guess so.
So let me put it to you this way. So let's say I've got 15 things on my to-do list, right?
Okay.
And I work really hard. I got 3 done. Okay. How do I feel about myself? How do you feel about yourself? You get 3 out of 15 done. Well,
I would look at that. I'd be feeling a little negative about that. That's not good enough in my eyes.
Right. It's like, crap, I only got 50. That's like, it's not enough, right? Okay. So let's look at it a different way. So I have one thing on my to-do list. I get that done. I feel pretty good. I say, I got a little more time. I'll do another thing. Then, I do another thing. Okay. So I had one thing on my to-do list. How do I feel? But I actually accomplished 3. How do I feel this time?
Well, I would feel a little better.
Yeah. I had one thing. I got 3 times as many things done, right?
Yep.
Well, in both situations, you only got 3 things done. You hear what I'm saying?
That's true, yes.
Right? So it doesn't matter. You still only got 3 things done, no matter what you had on your to-do list. So that little trick is something that very, very successful people do. They only put one thing on their to-do list. They may have a master list somewhere where they have like all 15 things, but they pick what is the most important thing. What's going to give me the highest leverage? What's going to be the best use of my time, right? And that one thing, that's the one thing that's going on my to-do list. And I'm going to do that one thing and I'm going to feel awesome. I'm going to feel like the king of the world. I'm going to feel, this is great. And that energy, and we talked about this a couple podcasts ago, celebration is the fuel for further success. So you celebrate that one thing, and what do? You have this motivation. I'm going to do something else. So you put the other thing on the list. You do that. I feel great. Put the other thing on the list. You do that. You feel great. So at the end of the day, you achieved the 3 things. You feel awesome versus I got 15 things. I got only 3 done. You still got 3 done, but your energy is totally different. And now the next day going into it, you got some energy to kind of get the inertia going.
My dad taught me one thing, and that is to start your day, if you do this one thing, turn it into a bit of an event, you've accomplished something already. And it's a real simple thing. You know what it is? We have a comforter. I make the bed. It's the first thing I do.
Yep.
And that one little thing just seems to get my day going in a more positive direction. Does that sound weird? It's a tiny little thing.
All these tiny little things add up. And no, listen, you start your day with a success. You made your bed. Way to go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know it sounds really juvenile, but yeah, that is something you accomplished first thing in the day. And what you're doing is you can see, it's not just something you did so you could check it off, but you can actually see the results of your efforts, right? You see that your bed is made. And now you have an organized space to come back to in the evening when you're ready to go to bed.
And you feel good about it.
Absolutely. You feel good about it. So that's one of those things that you do that really just kind of gets you moving, and it's a great way to start.
This is Ask Dr. Ganz, the podcast. We're talking about stress, as we do every week on this podcast, and you can check us out on Facebook too. Go to Ask Dr. Ganz. Doctor is DR, obviously. Okay, so back to this turning everything into a bit of an event, and we're back into that celebration mode we were in a couple of weeks ago. This is an important thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, celebration is really important, and the event part is really important too, because many of us, what we do is we're constantly planning, right? We like, even people who don't write stuff down, even people who don't have a planning system, we're always planning, right? And this is one of those things that keeps you up at night. It's like, oh man, oh crap, I forgot to do that, or oh man, okay, I got to do this tomorrow, and right, so it just kind of keeps going and going and going. I'm far more in favor of saying, okay, you know what, if I'm going to do this, let me make it an event. I'd rather just dedicate 10 minutes to planning, and then I can shut my brain off for the rest of the day, right? So I got it at home and I got it at my office. I have this little saying I put on a sticky note and put it in front of me. It says, plan your work, then work your plan, right? real simple.
Yeah.
Plan your work, then work your plan. So by planning, by making planning an event, I start off by that, put in like 10, 15 minutes planning. Now I know what the rest of my day needs to look like. Even if I don't follow the plan exactly, I at least have some structure to it. And so that is it. And then now I don't have to keep my brain live or keep it working with all this. Oh, what am I going to do next? Okay, yeah, but I got to do that. And I get to focus on whatever it is that's in my plan. That's that one thing that I have to do. I get to focus on that. And at that sense of focus vastly reduces my stress, reduces my effort, reduces everything so that I could just flow. It gets done, and then I celebrate that. And then I go, and say, okay, what else would I like to do? Now I do another planning session. Whatever's on my master list, I can stick in there, and I can move on to the next thing. So it's a simple thing. Plan your work, then work your plan. But it's such a way that you can shut off your brain. Once you get the planning done, you're good. You just kind of flow from there.
I'm a morning guy. It's almost annoying for everybody else at home because I'm one of those guys where I come downstairs and say, hey, and everybody's looking at me like, oh my goodness. But I'm full of P&V when I get up in the morning. Now, one of the things that I've always kind of taught myself to do is to get rid of the crappy stuff first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I do that, it makes the day so much better for me. I'm guessing that you would be a big fan of that.
Well, it depends. Some people like to do the crappy stuff first, like eat your vegetables before you eat your dessert, or eat vegetables before you eat your meat, right? Or some people, I always like to try to gear myself towards the positive, right? Whatever works for you. So for me, I say I get the important stuff done first. Okay. So I like the planning. Planning to me is, because I'm making an event, that's the first thing I get to check off the second thing, because I make my bed too. So the second thing I get to check off is, hey, I planned. That's awesome. So I already got a check mark on my little list. But so the important stuff for me is, okay, I need to do some time for my brain to meditate. So I want to have something inspirational in the morning. I want to make sure I get my journaling in. I want to make sure I get some exercise, my workout in. So if I can get those things in, and I put them in my schedule, and I actually get them executed, now I know the rest of the day is easy, right? So when it does come to the crappy stuff, I can get it done because I know I did the important stuff. I did the fun stuff. I got my fuel. I'm well fueled to be able to get through the rest of the day. The other way works too. It's like, hey, I got to do this, and I can reward myself with these things, but I'm going to get these things out of the way. I can move on. Now I can really enjoy the rest of my day. So whichever way works for you. But it all starts with a plan and some conscious, deliberate effort and energy going in a certain direction.
We'll get to prioritize in a minute, but this is Ask Dr. Gans, the podcast. We're talking about stress. You can check us out on Twitter. Here's the handle, @AskDrGanz. Okay. Prioritizing everything is, or prioritizing. I've heard it said a couple of different ways. Anyway, are you a big fan of doing that on paper? Because if you try to do it on your brain, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of doing everything on paper as much as I can, right? Because doing stuff on paper helps you to externalize. It gets it out of your head. It is actually simpler to actually map it out, right? Whether it's in words or pictures or however your brain works. But getting it out of your head and getting it outside so you can actually see it helps you to objectify it. So then you can actually move stuff around. You can see it more clearly. But the whole idea of prioritizing is extremely important because we can do things that seem like they're moving us forward, but they may not be actually moving us forward. They may not be what they call the critical inch or the 80-20 rule. This is the 20% that gives you 80% feedback of the results. What is going to give you the biggest bang for the buck? A few months ago, I reread this book called The One Thing. Really, really good book for anybody who wants to is into personal growth or management, especially time management. And their whole thing is, what is the one thing that I can do now that makes all the other stuff either easier or not necessary? If there's one thing, what can I do? Let me think about this. Okay, whatever that one thing is, that's what I do right now. And once that's done, then I ask myself the same question. Now, what is the one thing that will make everything else either easier or unnecessary? And what it happens is, even if you only do one or two things, those are going to be like high leverage activities, right? You're going to get a lot of bang for your buck by doing these one or two things that now you've taken the time to clearly identify. And so your leverage is better, you're moving forward faster, it takes less effort, and you create a lot more space and actual time for yourself to do other things in your life that are also important, like leisure, be with your family, sleep, eat, things like that.
I learned from a manager, a boss not long ago about it's far easier to handle the day when you put things into little boxes or into compartments. And I guess this is kind of what we've been talking about here. And that is trying not to overthink things and to try to make sure that one little box doesn't, spread into the next little box. Just handle what's in this box, push it aside when it's done, and move on to the next one. It seems simple enough, but a lot of people can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it said a couple different ways. One is only do one thing at a time. Right?
Yeah.
Or the other one is be here now, right? So be where you are, when you're there, and that's it. All you need to do is one thing, and that just focus on that. And then when you're done that, then you can you fill that box, move that box aside, then you can go fill in the next box, right? But it really is just that's it. One thing at a time keeps you focused, keeps your energy level up, and keeps your stress low.
We always talk about this on almost every podcast, and that is it sounds simple enough to do, but obviously, you got to be dogged in the way you take it on.
Well, see, this is the thing. I mean, like I didn't invent this stuff, right? This is stuff that's been around forever. It's stuff that most people have at least heard of if they don't know it. But the thing is, we don't do it. And this is honestly, Bryn, this is why I put together the Me Factor system, right? That's why I wrote the book. That's why I got the audio, all that stuff. And I did that for me. I did that to remind myself to do all these simple things that I've typically ignored. And then when I ignore them, my life spirals down to shit, right? And it's like, that's not what I want.
No.
So I have a system now to keep me going in the right direction. It's like my own personal owner's manual that, I don't have to think about. I just go and I look, my oil's low. Okay, I need to put the oil up, or I need to, whatever. I know what I need to do without having to think about it. But this is a great example of why planning is such a thing, because in order for me to keep my life running in a certain way, I had to step aside, make this thing an event, plan and build this system for myself, that now that I have the system built, I don't have to think about it anymore. I just run the system. And then it gives me what I need, keeps me in the right headspace, keeps my body running properly when I follow it. And then things just become a lot simpler, and I don't have to deal with stress to the same level.
This is podcast number 9 for us, and we were talking before we got rolling today about how smoothly this thing has gone.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
And the other thing that I've really kind of enjoyed is that everything kind of comes together a little bit. We've talked about a major topic today, but it always seems to go back to some of the other stuff we've talked about, like having your own owner's manual and all the planning. I'm fascinated by it. I think it's been great.
Yeah, I love it. And I really love the fact that I get to share this with everybody, share it with you and everybody who's listening. But again, when I say this stuff, I'm reminding myself of what I need to do to keep my shit together, because it's like, if I don't, I drift down into the vortex like everybody else, right? And I don't like being there. So I like being on the upside and spiraling up instead of spiraling down. I want to also see, not just for my clients, but also for me, how good can I stand it?
It's free therapy for me too, so I've enjoyed it. Let's talk about the book though for a second. The Me Factor. That's your book. A lot of people are reading it. I finally got through it. It's very helpful, and it just keeps coming back to me as we continue to do more and more episodes, that kind of thing. But what we'd really like to do, if anybody who's read the book, if you have some feedback on it,
yeah, absolutely.
All you do is go to the website, which is AskDrGanz.com. Take a look at all the features that you'll find on there. For example, we have information on seminars, cool stuff to buy. Obviously the book, the Me Factor's there. Plus, you can also reach Dr. Ganz for any public speaking event that you might have. But one thing we want to tell people is that we're looking for reviews on the book, which is the Me Factor. All you have to do is go to the shop portion of the website at AskDrGanz.com. If you've read the book, just post a customer review on that book page, because we'd love it. That kind of feedback is very helpful, is it not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Really good feedback. And let me just say something about some of the stuff that's on there, right? Because some of the stuff on there might look kind of silly and fun. We got T-shirts with geese on them and different things like that. If you read the book, you'll understand what all that stuff
That'll
is all
all come
about.
together.
Oh, yeah, it'll all come together. But everything we put on the website, it was there purposefully, right? We really thought about what we wanted to have on there. And the silliness is by design. So the silliness is so that, you can laugh, you can have a chuckle, you can do different things, you can play with it a little bit. Because, all this stuff, it's like life doesn't have to be so serious. We can have fun. We can be silly. We can just kind of joke around. But every little thing on there is to remind you of all these different strategies, all the different ways to help move your life forward. So that, every time you put on your shoes, you see the me factor. Oh, yeah, I got to think about myself. You look at your shower curtain, it's like, oh, yeah, I got to focus on myself because everybody else benefits from that. You put on the T-shirt. Oh, yeah, I got to remember to feed the goose. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, listen up. We're talking about that. We'll talk about that in the future, but read the book.
Exactly.
But, so everything is designed for a purpose.
Thanks for your time today. Always great.
Always great talking.
That's episode 9. Can you believe it? It's really shocking to me.
That's awesome.
We just keep pounding away here, and it's great stuff. Dr. Ganz, thank you once again. I'm Brent Griffiths. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends. Have yourself a great day, and we're back again next week.
1, 2, 3, listen.